Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za, and welcome to the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Just a quick announcement before we get going. Not sure if our days on YouTube are numbered. We are there tonight. I can see Mark Dunphy already in the studio. How's it, Mark? Good to have you on board. But just to read that notice there, there's a couple of links below where the show also goes out, and we're not 100% sure. Obviously, you'd like to stay on YouTube, but also looking at alternatives at the moment as well. Let's bring in the guests in. I see our second guest has also joined, and I'm going to start at the top of the screen as I'm seeing it. He's coming to us live from the Isle of Man. It's at the Crow Tips. Chris, great to see you again, man. If you don't mind me saying, you're looking well.
Well, thanks, man, Brent. Yeah, it's a big change in my life and a very nice one, an exciting one. And it's going, we just had a chat before we came on. Isle of Man is a fantastic place. I've only been here, it's my 4th week, but it's all, I'm moving to my new own flats tomorrow, actually. Job's getting busier and going well. And yeah, lots of awesome people around. Yeah, it's a really impressive place. So yeah, feeling good. And as we said, that's also improving the betting as well. So yeah, it's all good. Thanks, Brenty.
Yeah, it's amazing what a difference it makes to be in a positive mind space when you're punting. And I'm just laughing because just before the show, you and I were saying we're both sounding so clear to each other, probably more clear than normal. But that run of luck can't continue. And Nathan came into the show and he started again. So maybe he's having some problems this week. Just before we do get into things, Mark Dunphy still haven't recovered from the Champions Cup. Unbelievable that, Chris Leinster, 20-point favourites. I was on Leinster over 36.5, whatever it was. I needed that last try to stand. But let's face it, Northampton fully deserved that win, didn't they?
They absolutely did. It's just beggars belief, this Leinster story now, doesn't it? I mean, they just, and you could almost, we were calling and saying no, they had to win it surely. But it's again those easy victories, and they get those easy games, and they run into a big knockout game, and once again they run into an absolute freaking bolter and team at the best top of their form, and they just not at the races. And I was also saying to a few of my Leinster mates, also what I've also noticed in the last 4 years, they seem to be in their 22 attacking and turning the ball over even at the end of these games when they just need a score to win it. It's just really unreal stuff. But I've got the URC.
Yeah. No, unbelievable as well. Because let's face it, that last, that ref could easily have said, he thought it was a try, that last try, and then they probably would have awarded it. There wasn't really. It was one of those ones that could have gone other way. So I do feel for the Leinster guys. Mark's saying there's a curse on Leinster, and I think a lot of my Leinster mates would agree. In fact, I took the decision, Chris, not to phone any of my Leinster or not to WhatsApp any of my Leinster mates after the game because, I didn't know some of them. Mark actually made contact with me, but my other mate who's down in Plett in South Africa, I waited about 2 days because I knew these Leinster guys were going to be absolutely devastated by that one.
We had to give them a few days. I also gave them a few days, but I'm starting to give my chips now because, but I do feel for them, honestly. To just imagine being a Leinster and an Irish fan the last 7-8 years. Oh my word, it's brutal.
Yeah, and I also feel for them quite a bit. Blake saying they're giving making the Proteas look good. Of course, the Proteas known for falling at the final hurdle or semi-final hurdles quite a lot. Well, he's joined us now down there. We saw you pop in, Nathan. Were you disconnected, or did you have somewhere to run to?
No, I just had audio problems. But good to be here for the YouTube farewell edition.
Yeah, I'm hoping to continue, and there's certain rehabilitation courses and that I think I can probably go on. I just don't know if I'm ready to make the effort, but certainly we will there, and we are looking. We've actually we are looking at a couple of possibilities, but yeah, for sure, nice to have the boys back in the live chat. And if you are going to look at the other two options, it does go out on Twitter and it does go out on Facebook. Facebook, it's actually quite hard to find. You've actually almost got to look for it on Facebook. But as far as live chat goes, Facebook's definitely better set up than Twitter on that one. But anyway, Nathan, we've got a full house of games to get through. I just guess maybe your comments on the Champions Cup semi-final, particularly that Leinster exit we were just talking about now. It wasn't just, 20-point favourites at the end of the day. Most of us considered the result itself a formality. It was just a question of whether they could beat the Cap.
Yeah, it does seem like a curse, doesn't it? It was genuinely kind of eye-opening when you actually saw it. Like you just can't believe that anybody could be that unlucky for that extended amount of time.
Yeah, and the problem is, I think what kills these Leinster guys is we talk like that. We all giggling just a little bit, because we just pieces of our country came through or club going through such bad luck. But anyway, we've got only 4 Super Rugby games this weekend, and we're going to get started. And Nathan, I'll start with you. I'm also going to bring up, let's see, Bet Exchange's betting here. And we've got a handicap here, which is pretty much, you can correct me if I'm wrong, more or less where it opened, +6.5, been a little bit of movement backwards and forwards. That's the Drua at home against the Blues. And a points line, I know you and a few of the other boys, I think, got on the under 56.5. I was traveling on the day and it couldn't make any moves. It's down to 51.5 with, of course, bad weather expected. What are you doing on this one, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the under was an obvious one. That was one of these classic free roll situations that we talk about. I thought it was an under game anyway. I had it lined at about 53, and check the weather earlier in the week. There was sort of like a small chance, but one of these Fijian, Weather Bureau chances where you just have no idea what it means. But as the week went on, it actually started to look like there was, genuinely a chance of rain. Like they were talking about sort of 60 to 80% chance of it actually raining. So that, as I said, that seemed like a bit of a no-brainer on that one. In terms of the cap itself, it has been interesting because I think it opened at about 6.5, and I liked that number for the draw, and I took that. And then it went down to 5.5, probably just off the back of that bet, and then bounced out to 7.5. And I kind of thought, okay, well, I'm sort of stuck with that bet now. Well, not that I hated it, but there's clearly some sentiment against it. But it moved back, and that's always interesting, right? When you see that late move. So clearly other people potentially thinking along the same lines that I was. What I actually ended up doing was cashing out at the 6.5, because I think the situation is what you'd call like an asymmetric risk, where I think there's very little chance of it going back to 5.5, but I think there's quite a strong chance at some point of it going to 7.5, and I would obviously prefer the 7.5, but I think I can get 6.5 at any point. So I'm quite happy to just at this point, now that I've seen the way the market's kind of shaping, is just to wait, because I just think I can get 6.5 at any time, but possibly get 7.5 at some point. So I think I've got a few other talking points on this game, but I might just pause for a second there and let you guys jump in.
Yeah, let's go over to Chris then. I've just brought the teams up on the screen there which we posted there on Good for the Game. I see Bodie Barrett there at 10. Chris, funny, I was leaning the other way on this game. I actually capped this game, and I mean, clearly my caps is a bit out, but I thought Blues minus 10.5 on this game. And my logic was very much that I look at the Blues position on the log, and I'm thinking they really have to, they can't really afford to lose this. I mean, they could potentially lose this and qualify, but it's also going to get to the point if they lose this where they may have to start relying on other teams. What were your feelings on this one?
Yeah, I'm more on your side there, Brenty. I'm on the Blues here. I think just the situation, the context of the competition at the moment. I think the Blues also on head-to-head battles. I don't think the Drua come close to, and in a matchup point of view, are quite close to this Blues team. They obviously have given some recent teams a run in Fiji, but I just think I also like Beauden Barrett and the shape of the Blues when he's playing. If Plummer was there at 10, I would probably have a different view. But I just think in this spot, I like the Blues at 6. I would have also capped it a few points higher. So yeah, I can see why the points are there, and I'm expecting. I'm on the Blues on the side of the cap. The points I loved as well, but yes, I was watching that weather very closely because I capped the points probably about 54 myself. If the weather's anything like it was last week against the Reds, I'll be all over the overs. But I'm going to wait to see what the weather looks like. If there is any sun, I know the rain still can come through there. I know, if you want to go stats, and historically this is like Nathan said, this is actually historically an unders messy game. But I think this is a game that I think the Blues can come out firing. Drua, one of those teams that, they had a massive game last week. They don't often back it up. I know I think they're theoretically still in it, even though they obviously have no chance. But I like the Blues at 6. Yeah, I think you can even play it up to 8. I think the Blues win by double digits.
Yeah, interesting. And the guys in the live chat coming in the right way, which kind of takes us back to your original point, Nathan, which was you don't see the line moving below 6.5, but you could potentially see it moving up, which in your case, given that you do fancy the Drua, but you can maybe wait for that line and jump on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes it's just sort of reading the tea leaves, see which way the market sentiment goes. And obviously not being afraid to go against market sentiment, because often that's where the value is. Just a couple of things I think in general on this game. I mean, you're not going to be seeing sun because it's a 7 o'clock kickoff. So
fair enough. Yeah,
don't count on that.
Sorry, I'm so used to that. We're early kickoffs recently. Sorry, I had that in my head. So yeah.
Yeah, but that is one of the wild card things, I guess, about this game is that I don't think we don't have a very big sample size of games kicking off at night in Fiji. The majority of the games that have actually were back in the day when New Zealand teams would go over there and play, and the Chiefs and the Crusaders would play, or the Chiefs and the Highlanders would play. And obviously those games were years ago, and you can't read too much into them. A couple of them were really high scoring. There was a couple in the 60s, and then there was one where it rained a bit, which I think was in the 30s. And again, incredibly small sample sizes. I think the Drua have only played one game at night in Suva, and that was a game against the Hurricanes, which I think there was 52 points or something in. So again, it's an unusual one because we know it's going to be possibly raining, really humid, and at night. And what combination of those factors, what that means, I mean, who really knows? There's a few other things I think here, like the Drua playing 2 games in a row in Suva, and I did see Glenn Jackson kind of in one of the local Fiji papers sort of commenting on the not having to travel, because I think they've done a lot of travel and that kind of back and forth, I think, and being settled in one venue. He kind of suggested that was a good thing for them, and you could probably see why. The flip side of that is obviously the Fijian crowd turn up and are extremely vocal. If they do play 2 games in a row at the same venue, in particular it's Suva, do they get the same crowd turning up to the second game? But this is the Blues, right? So if you're a local there, you're probably going to turn out for the Blues, perhaps a bit more than you would for the Reds, bigger names. So the thing about the Blues is that, it's kind of like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, like kind of situation. Where, how many times do we think that they're this team of last year? And I get the idea that you sort of say, well, now they need to win. And it's kind of like, didn't they need to win like the last 5 games, and they haven't been able to, really? Yeah,
but I'm looking at it more. I was looking at it more when I capped the game from a team selection point of view. I think, like I think you might have mentioned that there was a chance maybe they'd rotate or whatever. My thinking was they're going full out for it. Whether they're good enough or not, well, that we're going to find out. But for me, it was a question of, they're not going to risk losing like team-wise, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. I think we've talked about it before, right? Like if they were reliant last year on this power game, and if you thought about one of the things that they did was that they brought these wingers in, Talia and Clark, to basically cart the ball up like around the ruck, to add to the likes of Akira Ioane and the big boys that were punching it up through the middle, Tongafasi, and all of these guys, they're obviously they're not there, so it does kind of adjust the way that they were playing, they want to play compared to the way that they were playing last year. So yeah, I don't know. I just think in this particular instance, I just think like we have a tendency, I think, to probably overlook how good the Drua can be at home. Did it again last week, right? I think we were probably all. It seems like the entire world was on the Reds. So as I said, like I'm happy to wait. I mean, who knows? If I could get 8.5 on the Blue on the Drua, I think that would be a fantastic number.
Yeah, interesting. All this conversation tells me that the handicap is one way or another very close to right here. I think a bit of support, as you say, on both. But tell me the points line now at 51.5. Obviously, 56.5 was the number. Even potentially, it's been backed all the way in. But it's getting to the point now, Nathan, where I would be a bit reluctant to get onto the unders, just personally, just given how Drua games. I mean, I've seen some pretty wet Drua games go overs and that. Would you say the line's reached where it's going to sort of settle now?
I mean, the line probably will, and again, I think people are scared to take really low lines. But if it is like proper raining, like when you turn the TV on, like that kind of game in the 30s is well within possibility, and in a funny way, I think the Drua would handle those conditions better. And I know it seems a little bit counterintuitive because you think that they're kind of a big ball playing team, and the Blues would probably want to stick it up the jumper kind of thing. But when you think about those games like earlier this season against the Chiefs, it's just almost like the Drua guys are used to playing in rain because they get so much of it over there at different times, and it doesn't bother them in terms of their handling.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I just always think of the Sharks and the humidity, and I always think, sure, but they should be used to it by now, but they never seem to. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting because like the 2 games, Chris made the point of can they do 2 big games in a row, and you made the point is first time they're really playing 2 games where they don't have to travel, because even normally when they travel a home game, they've had to travel back from New Zealand or Australia. So much to consider in this game. I must admit, I can see where both camps are in this game, and I haven't actually made up my mind. I'll probably go a Blues minus just because, Chris, I'll probably back my initial gut feel on this more than anything else.
Yeah, well, look, we'll be 15 minutes into the show. We still don't have a real strong feel on it, do we? So it just says everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, look, I'm currently actually cashed out. So there's a strong possibility that I don't actually even go back in.
But normally and when I'm in this situation, look, Blues have been a bogey team for me this year as well. This is why it's not even a confident, because I just can't trust the Blues anyway. Never mind what Drua are going to give. You could probably half bet that Blues might be messy and uncomfortable in this situation. So it's a very low, even if it's, I'm going on the -6, but it's a very low confidence.
I'll give Peter Paul the last word on this game. And basically what he's saying is after watching this, he's going to go take a +20 Drua. That should hopefully arrive. Take him. That's very difficult to make a firm decision on this one.
Especially if there's only 20 points in the game. That would be a good bet.
Yes, exactly. Then it's a really good handicap. But Chris, I'll go with you with the next one. Waratahs up against the Reds. This game sitting at 54.5. I think there's also some inclement weather potentially around. I'll double check that now while you're chatting. And we got a handicap here +2.5. There has been money here for the Tars. I think it was +6.5 early doors, so it's come in. Chris, what do you reckon?
I'll be honest, Brent, when I was looking at the games this weekend, to be honest, most of the Super Rugby games, in my opinion, are pretty well capped, and I would say this is another one. Tars probably deserve to have the points here, but I think, if I can remember, I think the Reds gave them quite a hard time in the reverse fixture. But the Tars have, they have put in some good performances, but they've also can go missing at times. So I think it's well capped. You're right. I think the points was another one. Obviously, I was looking. I think it's in the mid-50s. Was it not? If I last saw around 56, 58, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
It's 54 now. Yeah.
Oh, it's 54. Is that where? Because when I was looking early in the day, what was the weather? What was the weather?
Looking at the weather, I'm just popping on here. I think what will it be in Sydney, like 7 o'clock their time, 6 o'clock on a Friday night. It does look like there could be some rain about, and the all-important humidity looks like it's in the 80s. So fairly high humidity, I would say. Yeah, if pushed here, I would go still under 54.5 on this game, because I do think this could be a bit of an arm wrestle between two sides who obviously, I mean, the Reds are more than just in contention, they're in fourth, but and with a game in hand. But the Waratahs have also got a game in hand over the 3 teams above them. So, a win here would put them right into the playoff mix as well.
Yeah. So, I was going to say, Brent, again, we can talk another 15 minutes maybe if I had to try to pick a side here, but this is going to be a very low confidence, slightly on the Reds and slightly on the unders. But again, these games, to say, are these Super Rugby 4 games are being well capped when I had a look. So I'm going to have to stick it at that as well for this one.
Yeah, we're both battling this weekend on the Super Rugby a little bit, Nathan.
Oh, I mean, this one's pretty much exactly what Chris said off the top. I think I'm right where the market is on this. So I've got Reds by 3 and 54 points on the line. I did, so it's right there. I did take the under on the 55.5, and again, a bit of a free roll on the possibility of the weather. So, one of the reasons why that points line is dropped 1, but that's really all I've got to say about this. Yeah.
Fair enough. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, it's just the Super Rugby. What you do, like it's like Nathan said, the time of kickoffs in this competition does matter. Or I certainly know it, especially as a punters player. If it is in the early afternoons and the weather is better, it is a much free flowing game. We get to these moist humidity games. Yeah, that pill gets spilled a lot. You see it, and that's why it's not as confident. Again, it's because you want to see the conditions, and as you guys know, I mean, I've certainly been fooled by New Zealand and Australia weather a few times. So it's, again, when it's this close, I like to get closer to the game before I start getting anywhere, firing heavy triggers. And
of course, the time of the year is well important in that, you're going into the colder, wetter sort of weather now anyway as well. Crusaders up against the Chiefs, Nathan. I'll kick off with you on this one. This handicap, as far as I can tell, has been pretty stable, and pretty much where I capped it. I should imagine most people capped it, and these New Zealand derbies tend to be fairly easy to handicap. We've got -2.5 Crusaders and a points line here at 54.5. And if I'm not mistaken, the weather's also not that great in Christchurch. But Nathan, I'll have a look at that while you kick us off.
Yeah, have a look at that, because my understanding was that it's actually going to be okay. But
okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting when you say it's been stable, like it has oscillated between -1.5 and -3.5, which doesn't sound like a lot, but clearly from a market perspective, that there are opinions on both sides. I'm personally on Crusaders -1.5, and that was kind of the opening number, and then it kicked right out to 3.5. Then it was overnight, or last night, it was back to 1.5, and now I see it Bet365. It's 2.5, so it's sort of in the middle again. So overnight money coming for the Crusaders. I just like the Crusaders in this spot. I just think the Chiefs, there's a little bit of fragility there that I think has sort of shone through at times this season and last season. When I think back to the final, it wasn't even a contest. There were games this year, like that Waratahs game, where they just kind of looked a little bit all at sea. There are a few holes, I think, in the Chiefs. I don't necessarily like the front row, and I think that's an area where the Crusaders will target. They've got some big names and some top players in that area of the field. So so I just think that the Crusaders, after a week off, coming off the bye, having targeted this game, I just think that I think they'll win. And when you're looking at 1.5, that just, it seems like kind of, to me, like they'll cover that in getting to that win. So so I just as I said, and I say this as a Chiefs fan, like I just have at the back of my mind that there are a few gaps in their game.
No, 100%. And just to comment on the weather, I went to look at my comments when I updated the blog. It is actually clear. You're 100% correct. But what caught my eye was the humidity levels were late 80s, early 90s. I'm assuming the kickoff will be sort of around 7. Is it around what it would be 6, 7 o'clock at night in New Zealand? I'm not too sure of the time gap. I know it's 9 here. But it was the humidity levels that caught my eye a bit. Sort of the moment it gets late 80s, 90s, I often do find myself leaning towards the unders. But you're 100%. It's actually pretty clear, and certainly no rain forecast there at all. Chris, yourself on this game?
Yeah, again, like I said, right on my numbers and my capping, I think they got the right favorites at the point. I think this game could have also even been a pick'em. I do like the points here. I do think these teams will have a good go at it. I like it with them again. I think another team like the Blues, Mackenzie changes the shape of that team. They play with a lot more flair, also a lot more opportunities for teams. And what I see, so I think I like the 54. I think they have a ding dong battle, and they'll have a good go at it. And I've been like this. I love this fixture. I've caught it. It's been on the right side of it a few times. Luckily, over a few years, I think it goes down 80th minute as one score game. So I'm not going to pick it because I think it can go either way. I do think Chiefs are in it. I'm not going to confidently say Crusaders will win it, but I like that over 54. I don't think they're going to blow that away, but I think they'll clear that line. I'm more confident on an overs than calling who's going to win it.
Right, just looking at some of the guys in the live chat, quite a few leaning towards the Chiefs, including Johan Estays in there, saying Chiefs by 1-12. Well, let's move on to the final Super Rugby game of the weekend. It's the Force up against the Brumbies. And Chris, I'll get you started on this one. We've got a handicap plus 4.5 Force and 57.5 total points. And while you're chatting, I'll just bring the weather up and just double check. But when I last checked, it was looking pretty clear on this game. Yeah, it was looking good.
Yeah, I was well over this was the one of the early fixtures when the weather was good. I think there was loads of points in this last fixture. I think Force went ahead like 21-0 at the Brumbies, and the Brumbies came back,
yes.
and the Force came back, and then the Brumbies just went away at the end. It was a cracking game, and you know what, I kind of can feel the same shape in this game as well. So I do think they're points. I wouldn't be afraid of attacking those over points. That's a lot of respect there for the Force to get those points, because I still think when the Brumbies are all aboard and focused, they are of a superior side than the Force, and they could blow away into a 2-score lead. So if I want to say I don't know, I never used to bet the Force, but this season they have been a lot stronger and have been scoring points. But I'm going to lean you on the Brumbies. I just still think I think they have the better side, and if it gets loose, I think they've got enough players to take the game away from the Force, and I think the game's going to go close to 60. So I'll have a look at the overs close as well, and probably play some alt doubles there.
Well, yeah, interesting. I'm very much leaning towards unders this weekend. I'm not so sure if I'd still get on the first game at 51.5, but I was looking at the treble. The last three unders were sort of 6-1, 12-1, all of the unders. But yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to take the bet.
That's the first time. Well, I think that's the first time in 4 years we're going to have that oppose each other.
Yeah, that's it. I'll quickly close those just in case I stick my balance on the multiple by mistake there. But yeah, interesting. Let's go before we finish off with Nathan on this one. I'll just have a look. Oh, sorry, the chat's disappeared. So Nathan, I'll go to you. Force against Brumbies.
Yeah, I mean, unders has been hitting at an incredibly high rate over the last sort of 4 to 5 weeks. Personally, I'm running at about 75%, like just betting unders. Went 3-0 betting unders in Super Rugby last week. So I'm more than happy for people to jump on the overs in this game. I hope it runs. Like if you give me 59.5 or something, I'll be taking the unders there. I think that the cap, it's interesting because I have this at 5, so I won't be playing the handicap as it stands. It's interesting though, because I do understand why people would want to back the Brumbies, and I guess my kind of gut feel would still say Brumbies here as well. But I think one of the things against these Aussie games at the moment, and it's partly a time of year thing, but it's also like a lot of these games they're almost like trials for the Lions squad. That's the massive focus for Australia Rugby at the moment. So there's going to be a lot of people that are try to put in good performances to get noticed, to get picked. And when you're trying to get noticed for a test squad, I think it's it's probably things become a lot tighter. You don't want to be playing that loose game. You don't want to be remembered as the guy that was making a lot of mistakes or forcing your hand too much, because that's not how that test series is going to go. So yeah, I just think it's just one of these things. It's probably just a factor. Things just tighten up in general at this time of year. So yeah, we probably won't be touching the handicap, but potentially looking at the overs depending on how far it runs.
The unders.
Did I say unders?
The unders, yeah. But you will be looking at the overs punters to make it run. So that
yeah. That's what you meant. That's what you meant.
Yeah.
Again, it's so. Again, I'm not confident. I'm saying overs, but I'm still not. It's not a confident punt. This is as close as it's been to my lines as I can remember in terms of a slate of games. So yeah, unfortunately, don't have strong opinions.
I'm with you. To me, this looks a bit of a tricky weekend. I must say, guys. We'll talk a bit of URC now. Of course, it's back the final 2 weeks of URC, and the Sharks Ospreys is going to kick us off here. Bearing in mind, we got the 2 Friday night games where we have seen teams and everything, the points lines are out. But on the Saturday games, we kind of have to make certain assumptions. That being said, at this time of the year, you can also look at the log and you can pretty much probably say, well, that team will be going for it and this one won't. But let's get cracking. Chris, and I'll start off with you. The Sharks tomorrow night in Durban. This game kicking off 7 o'clock in South Africa. We got the Sharks minus 16.5 against the Ospreys. And we've got a points line here of 52.5. And I'll bring up the teams there as you chat.
Yeah. Well, it's a very strong Shark side again, right? I mean, all the big boys, barring the guys that are injured, which I think of the bigger names in your Carney, what's been up for a while. But basically, this is a pretty strong Sharks side again at home. you know, again, all my rugby instincts and maybe SA bias would say should be another Sharks hammering, but we've been saying this for the last 3 years. Even when the big Sharks players are there, they haven't performed. But one thing maybe we can say is, I mean, they you know, when it came to the business end of the season last season in the European Cup, the guys came together and they won the thing, right? I mean, at least they are in the playoffs, so at least they're there. There's not that much pressure they should be going through. And Ospreys, I mean, they are mathematically in it. I mean, but they've got to play the Sharks and the Lions, and I mean, they've got to have a whole lot of luck around them for them to actually get in. So, you know, they could be 15 points down, and then I don't know, how hard are they going to keep going? You wouldn't. I mean, we keep saying this. The professional rugby players, they still have a chance. They should be at 100%. But that Sharks on paper is a 15-point better side. So I'm going around in circles there because I can't bet. Sharks are just. I love it when full strength teams play because I do then get a stronger feel. But it's just one of the teams like the Blues and Super Rugby this season, the Sharks and the URC, even though they're fourth, they're just a hard team for me to call and bet. So they should beat the handicap, but it's a low confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way the Sharks have played, you kind of look at the log and you go, hey, they're in fourth. Like, it's kind of like, how'd they get there? You know, because they have disappointed so many times. But of course, some of those disappointments, I think it was like against Zebra, they won the game, so they got the points, but they were 20-point favorites and they won by 2 or whatever. You know, so as a punter, you're going terrible, but they still managed to get the win. Nathan, interested in your thoughts on this one. I know the Sharks are not a team you particularly want to be chasing every week.
No, it's funny that you say that too about, you know, you kind of look at the table and, oh, they're in fourth. How do they get there? Like, I feel like the entire URC table is something where, you know, like the season starts, then a bunch of stuff happens in the middle of the season, and then you get to now and you look at the table and go, oh, okay, that's who's playing well. Or that's who's, you know, where they are. There's a whole middle section of the URC which is so disjointed and messy and, you know, like lacks momentum that you don't really know how good anybody is until you kind of get to this point. And kind of like Chris says, I like this time of year and the early part of the year because at least you know teams are trying. There are other points in the season where you actually just don't know. So I had the number overnight or yesterday was 18.5, and I thought that was about right. And then when the teams come out and ran some numbers, that got me to the Ospreys. So I took the 18.5, and I see that's kind of driven it down to 16.5 now. So yeah, I was happy to be on the Ospreys at that 18.5. I think that's just, yeah, as I said, the Ospreys they're going to come to play, and that's not always something that you can guarantee at other parts of the season.
Yeah, I saw they had the video of Jack Morgan getting supposedly finding out while he was on the plane that he's made the Lions side. You actually wonder how staged those things are. But anyway, yeah, interesting because Chris, I do take your point there. You know, I look at the log and I go, yeah, the Ospreys are in it, but do they really think they're in it? You know, that type of thing.
Yes.
But I'm also. I can't have the Sharks minus. No, so I can't have the Sharks minus given what they've done. But looking at that points line, it's actually not a bad looking evening in Durban. The humidity is in around about the 80% mark, but for Durban, that's actually not too bad. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it might actually be, maybe this is one where, you know, Ospreys come here and they've come to play, but not necessarily to win.
Yeah, but just like you said, you look at the log, then you look at Ospreys, and you look, okay, they're 3 points behind the playoffs. There's still 2 games to game, but then you look at Munster. They got Ulster and Benetton at home. I mean, they do certainly believe they have a chance, right? Where Ospreys,
for sure they do.
Yeah. You know, but you say so. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, even if they can somehow go and beat the Sharks and the Lions in South Africa. Are Munster going to lose at home to one of those teams as well? I doubt it, right? So, yeah.
We'll keep it.
Probably just the other thing to think about is the fact that they are, you know, theoretically kind of not really in the running, or not theoretically, but you know, maybe practically not really in the running. Is that not already in the number, and that's why the number is so big?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say so. I would say that Sharks team against an Ospreys team, I would say that the cap's about right. I think the risk is that Ospreys do at some point just sort of throw up the white flag. But I don't necessarily think they will. But
what wasn't it Ospreys that they beat them, right, 2 years ago? I remember that game. Was it Ospreys? I think they won like 31-7.
Could have been Cardiff.
It was Cardiff. You're right.
Yeah.
It was Cardiff. Yeah.
I think it's Cardiff. But you know what, guys? Let's give Beaver Donald, the New Zealand fly half from 2011, the final say. He says Sharks are fourth because the URC is low level rugby. There we go. Has anyone ever seen Fareed Manuel and Donald in the same room together? I think probably not. Right, let's go to Munster up against Ulster now. And Nathan, I'll let you start on this one. We've got a handicap here of 8.5 Munster. As Chris pointed out, sitting just outside the playoffs, but still very much in contention with 2 home games. And a points line here of 47.5. I looked at this weather fairly recently, and it was showers forecast and temperature sort of in the late teens. What are your views on this one?
Yeah, because I'm not super close to URC team news in the early part of the week to know exactly what people are saying in the news and all that kind of thing. I generally wait till teams come out to make any moves, but I tailed the Admiral on this one. He said that he thought Ulster plus 11.5 was a good bet. So I just jumped on that, and it moved to 8.5 where it is now, and it hasn't moved. And when the teams did come out, and I did run my numbers, I had Munster by 9, so it was right on where this is. So tip of the hat to him. He obviously kind of saw where this one was going in terms of selections. So I think it's lined correctly where the current number is.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I also capped this very close there, just slightly on the other side. I capped it -7.5, which, had I been looking early in the week, I might have also taken the sort of +11 there. Let's stick with you for Bulls against Cardiff. Here we got a handicap. I know at some point it was -16.5 Bulls. So there appears to be a bit of money for the Bulls there to 18.5. We don't have a points line yet, but I can tell you I'm very, very interested in the points line. I checked the weather on this one, and we've had some dry weather now for a few days up in Gauteng here. So it's not like it's rained all week and we got a nice clear Saturday. There's dry weather. The field should be getting hard. We've got humidity here in the low 30s. There should be no reason why conditions are not perfect here. So I'm certainly waiting for the points line on this one. But any early thoughts on this before we see the teams, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, with the lineups basically as they would have been for the previous game, I've got Bulls by 22, which I guess in theory is leaning Bulls. But when you start to get up to handicaps this big, the 1.5 points or 2.5 points is less meaningful at these big numbers, because you're kind of throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping you land somewhere in the right spot. So yeah, I would probably need to have more of a clear direction with a big cap to go one way or the other.
I must say, Chris, I'm nervous on the cap on this one, but as I say, waiting very much for the points lines, because I'm looking at this game and I can see one of those games where the Bulls do win comfortably, whether they beat the handicap or not, I'm not sure. But Cardiff pick up their sort of bonus point try, and we get a really high scoring match. What are your thoughts on that? Because they are well positioned in fifth, but they got 2 obviously very hard games to finish their campaigns. But they're at the point where a bonus point could yet prove crucial for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be open game. I know we do say this a lot on our half fight games, but Cardiff do like to play an expansive game these days compared to back in the older Pro D days. So I agree. I'll have a look at the points. It's probably going to be close to 60, I would say. That's why I'm capping it. It'll be around there. I think maybe 1 or 2 points either side. I think Bulls, again, like I don't know, again, team news, like we get to Stormers, like I way more trust the strong Stormers side at home than I trust any Bulls and Sharks side at home at the meantime. So I'm not going to get too carried away on the Bulls either in this game, because Cardiff actually have shown not to be mugs, and they could probably take Bulls within 10 points here. So I'm going to wait for points.
Yeah, we wait for points on Darren Holiday, certainly agreeing with us there in the studio, and just generally the sentiment, I think, is probably, which of course means the bookies are going to probably have that sentiment as well, and we get a points line of like 62.5 or something like that. It's very seldom we catch them napping these days, which is a little bit of a pity. But that, certainly a game I'm looking forward to. Chris, I'll stick with you for Leinster up against Zebra. Big handicap here, -25.5 on Leinster. And yeah, obviously no points on this one. Leinster, I mean, the hearts must be absolutely broken after last week. But yeah, this just looks a really tough game for me in terms of their mindset. But at the same time, it's Zebra.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I would like to be back in Leinster in this spot. I don't. They might be down, but I think we see rebound here, and it is Zebra. I think Leinster win by more than 30. Yeah, so I like Leinster. I'm gonna back them on the rebound. Yeah, I like spots like this, especially that it is Zebra. If it was maybe a much stronger side, different. I think I don't know. We speak about Leinster, our Leinster mates. I think they had started to really think about next season and players. So I heard something that players have been told that contracts are going to be up and stuff. So you're absolutely right. Frame of mind, team selection is going to possibly impact, yeah, because I don't know what team's going to play. This might not be their strongest team anyway, even though they obviously would like to win it. But yeah, I think I'm confident because even Leinster's second teams, we've seen them play well. So I'm still going to lean on Leinster. Yeah, I'll probably wait again just to see the team news before I get be confident. But I'll be playing some Leinster points in some of my bets this weekend. Sure, once I've seen the team though.
Nathan, would you agree this looks a tricky encounter based on the information at hand at this stage?
It is, because I think you can make a case for both sides that maybe this is a bounce back spot or is it a flat spot. I think the thing is that a lot of the players who will be playing in this game, because I'm kind of assuming it's going to be similar to the team they rolled out the previous game, which is that kind of B/C team. Maybe a lot of those players didn't play in the final, so they might not have been spending all week crying. So I actually based on that the previous week's team selections, I have Leinster by 35. So I'm kind of backing the bounce back, but yeah, we'll see. I think the team selections will probably tell you something. Some of those players might want to be getting back on the horse, They
might want to get them out to get there. Players might even want to be on the field this week to put it right.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe there's even I don't know if it's just like you'll make a philosophical kind of coaching change within the space of a week, but maybe there's a case to be made that they're not playing enough. Like that some of these guys get put cotton wool too much, and by the time they roll them out for some of these games, maybe they're a little bit undercooked.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good point. It's something that Leinster need to consider, because it does change the dynamic totally of. Sorry, Chris.
No, so I just was quickly to say I don't know who they play in their last game, but I mean obviously they win this week, they cement first spot. So surely they also want to put that to bed this week. They don't want to be faffing around.
I think the win, they'll definitely want to cement the top spot. The way things were looking, as far as I can recall, is if they'd made the final, they would have won here and then probably rested everyone the next week. Banked the points. But now they don't have to worry about resting players for the Champions Cup final anymore. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think sort of wait and see. Certainly, if they pick a decent looking side, I tend to agree with Nathan's cap there and what some of the boys in the forum have said. And yeah, let's see if their defense can also get. I mean, generally speaking, the defense has been incredibly miserly, other than against the Northampton Saints and Zebra. Certainly don't have that sort of strike power. Right, we can move on to Benetton up against Glasgow. Glasgow is struggling a little bit at the moment. There was a big handicap move in this game. And Nathan, you can tell us about that one. We currently sit with a handicap of plus 1.5, but am I right in saying this was maybe 5, 6.5 when it opened?
That's right. So another shout out to the Admiral who called it earlier that one was a bit off. So again, last game's lineups, I make it right here at 1.5. So in a way, like I've got a close eye on this, because I think if Glasgow can bring anybody back, and it might be that they can't, like I'm not close to their injury list to know, maybe some of these guys are just long-term absences and we won't be seeing them, but if Glasgow could get people back, I think then I would certainly have an interest in Glasgow. But it's going to depend heavily on what kind of lineup they put out, because right now I think it's kind of where it should be. And I don't tend to disrespect Benetton too much, because they're a good side.
And Chris, certainly both sides will be motivated here. Glasgow, of course, wanting to hold on to second spot on the log with the Bulls thundering in behind them. But at the same time, you look at Benetton there; they're filling that 8th spot. They almost need to win this game, otherwise they're in deep trouble. So we could be in for a pretty exciting one here. And I'm with Nathan in the sense that I think the line's kind of about right at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. The line. I also agree with the line where it is. Yeah, I think it's very tough with Benetton with a strong side at home. I don't go rushing and opposing them against anyone they play, to be honest. So I think Glasgow do the business. So they should have the quality, but I think it's capped right as well. Yeah.
Well, let's bring you on to the next game to start off. Of course, it's your favorite team, the Stormers. There was, I know there was some minus 29.5, but generally I think sitting around the minus 32.5 now. And Southpaw made the point in the forum that the biggest handicap of the week could yet, Chris, be the best minus play of the week. The Stormers have looked pretty good. Was it Benetton they gave a good hide? Was it Benetton they gave a good hiding to a couple of weeks ago? They've got incredible playmakers. I'll certainly be looking for points here in this one. I just want to quickly check Cape Town weather. What was it?
Should be fine.
Rain. There is possible rain. The forecast I looked at, possible even a storm out. Obviously this is sort of 3 days out or whatever it is. So just double check that. But there are no points lines yet anyway. But what are your views on this one? Minus 32.5. It's a hard handicap to take.
Well, when I hosted the shop a few weeks ago, I remember I was all over the bloody Stormers against Connacht, and exactly what we was hoping they would do that day. They've now gone and backed it up 2 weeks in a row. Awesome, as typical. But I think a lot of it's to do with the team sheets for Stormers as well. If the Galacticos are playing, the Gallants and the Sashas and the Willemses, then they'll run away. They're nowhere to be seen, even no matter what. Because I know Cape Town weather. Well, that won't be heavy rain. It's not going to be rain that's going to spoil too much of the conditions, and Stormers should still be good enough. So again, I'm going to leave it some team sheets. But if it's a strong Stormers side, yes, you need to be on the minus. So Dragons will battle to live with the Stormers side at this part of the season, the way they're playing.
Just to mention something on the previous game, we won't harp on it, but I just want to bring up, I missed Darren's comment there. Tio Pilato's back for Glasgow, so that is absolutely huge. I agree with Darren. That will be big. I mean, they haven't named the team, but obviously he's been declared available. And just having a look, Cape Town is going to be extremely windy on Saturday, says Darren as well. So in that situation, often pays to look at overs. If you like overs, you got overs tries instead of overs points, because the wind can obviously.
What I've noticed though, Newlands, that southeaster used to come through Newlands and spiral it around. When I've been in the Cape Town Stadium, it's been a rage in southeaster. Yeah, much more sheltered than Newlands. It does affect, but not nearly. The stands are way higher, and I've noticed it's not nearly as effective with this when Newlands was windy.
Okay, that's interesting. And I mean, it happens a lot at grounds when they get renovated and that, and suddenly instead of having these open stands or low stands, you've got these high things that are blocking the wind. So I think a very good point on that one. Nathan, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I make this 32 again, just based on last time out's lineups, so that could quite easily adjust. And yeah, if I kind of feel that if I was to run numbers after lineups and find that Stormers number on my side goes up, I kind of feel like then it could be anything, because there is a point where you almost can't really model like really ridiculously high caps. Like there's a point where that kind of distribution of outcomes, it's going to have a really like long tail heading towards that Stormers side, where if the Dragons bring anything kind of under strength and the Stormers don't, I see people talking about sort of 50, and look, it's clearly not outside the realms of possibility that could happen. So we'll see. But yeah, I think as of right now, it's kind of kept well. But like as I said, like even a slight adjustment could throw things out in terms of the Stormers side.
And I think that the important thing that you touched on there was the Dragons team, because I was thinking of that when I was sort of looking at this game, thinking, what are the Dragons thinking? They are totally out of it, bottom of the table. I mean, do they maybe say, okay, well, let's rest a few of our guys, don't take a few youngsters or whatever, in which case they could get an absolute drubbing. I mean, the Stormers team, I think we can guarantee, Chris, the Stormers are going to go full strength for this. It's a question of which of their star. I mean, they have to have some, non-ball players in the back line as well. But it's going to be that Dragons team. The problem is, I'm going to have to rely on other guys because I don't know the Dragons players anyway.
No.
So for me, I'm going to have to rely on other guys who do.
If that Stormers team is full strength and rolling, the Dragons are not going to live with them. I'm almost 100% sure. I mean, yes, Stormers can go to sleep, but I think that Connacht performance was exact performance that the Stormers needed just to light them up for the rest of the season, because it was a massive wake up call, because they were rolling, but they just obviously thought, yeah, we go, and they just kept letting Connacht back in, and I think that's refocused them nicely for a run into the final weeks of the season. So I don't anticipate Stormers taking the foot off the pedal, but you never know. But it's just such a lovely back line, and when the full forwards are in sync, and they just get rolling, and the thing is their defense. The defense is always normally very strong in Cape Town, and it wasn't there against Connacht and FSG. I mean, Dragons will battle to find opportunities. I think Dragons might even battle to score 10, 15 points this game anyway. But we're talking Stormers. How many are they going to get, right? So that's what we're trying to predict here. And they should get close to 50 or break 50.
Okay, no, 100%. We will keep an eye on the weather there as well. Just the boys in the live chat agreeing with Nathan. When it gets to a certain level, it actually becomes very, very tough to model. And Darren pointing out that there are a couple of players potentially missing from the Dragons side. So I must admit, as high as that handicap is, I am leaning in the minus direction.
And hopefully they're taking Morgan on the piss tonight anyway, so they should be still pretty drunk on Saturday. So yeah.
Talking of people who will be drunk soon, I think he's finishing off his exams. The Admiral, evening all, lots of talk about the Stormers. Backline, 3/4 being at full strength, but need to have a look at the front row is back to full strength, almost important for this game. Good point. We often look at those backline exciting players, but you've got to be winning at the ball. Fareed saying that.
I did mention that the forwards the forwards were in unison, then that goes without saying, right?
But let's pop down to Nathan to the penultimate game, Connacht up against Edinburgh. We've got Connacht here minus 5.5 points, which I think means it's been a little bit of money for Edinburgh. I think it was 6.5, 7.5, Nathan, early in the week. I'm not too sure. I've been traveling all week, so I haven't really seen much.
Yeah, I didn't spot an early number, so I couldn't actually tell you what that was. But I do think this is probably one of the more interesting games, because I think that number sort of includes an assumption that there will be some sort of semi-final hangover for Edinburgh, and that they'll possibly rotate. I don't know whether they will. I guess we'll find out, right? Like they're 10th on the table, well in the hunt to make the 8. If Edinburgh are full strength here, backing against Connacht has been a good exercise, at least for me this year anyway. So I would be looking to Edinburgh if the teams kind of come out and seem to me to be, relatively full strength.
Yeah, in fact, I'm just looking at that log, and Connacht is one of those sides that I'd have to say, yes, they're mathematically in it, but deep down they probably know they're gone, Chris. So that where Edinburgh are obviously 4 points ahead of them with just 2 games to go. They're definitely the team that are more in it. And I would say that I would agree with Nathan there. If anything, I'd be leaning Edinburgh, wait for the teams, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this line come in further. And if you were going to take an early play now, don't bug around with the handicap. Perhaps take a bit of 2-1 Edinburgh. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree. I certainly think Edinburgh will get this. We'll get over the line here, but I'm not overly confident it's going to be. They're going to break away from Connacht. I think I love posing Connacht away, but I think at home they can be a different kettle of fish. They probably get their heels stuck in there, try and make a point. They play with a lot of pride, and they'll give Edinburgh a hard game, and it will be close than might be close at the end. So. Yeah, this is, I'll be honest, not a game that I normally target. I might for fun money, but it's not a game I'm going to get seriously involved in.
Well, I'm going to bring you in first on Sunday's game, because I already know what you're going to say on this one. It's about a market that we don't have yet. We got the line against Scotland. I can tell you, I checked the weather. I didn't even know humidity could go as low as in the 20s. But we've got humidity in the 20s. It's going to be absolutely dry. As I say, this Ellis Park or Emirates Park pitch has not been in great shape. The problem is we've had a tremendous amount of rain, but that rain stopped about maybe 10 days ago by kickoff. So there should be, hopefully, even if there's the odd muddy patch, it should be hard, if you know what I mean. Yes. There should be no excuse for no points here. We've got a Scarlets team, Chris, that are sitting, right there in 7th, but far from safe with the South Africa trip now. And a Lions team who, yes, mathematically they're in it, but I don't know. I think this one screams points. What do you think?
And I totally agree. Yeah, we're aligned. We're back to normality.
Sorry, I had to get in first.
Absolutely read my mind. Yeah, it's surely got to be. I mean, look, Lions have been. Oh, geez, the second half of their season has been horrible. But again, in the spot at home on the Highveld on a sunny Sunday and on a firmer pitch now, they're going to go gung-ho. Scarlet's got to win it. Lions are going to just throw that ball around. They can't defend. They love to give one, love play a bit of ping pong and volleyball there, try volleyball. So, it's going to. You could go 60 over 60. If you've got 60 points, don't be afraid to go over 60. I think it's going to be quite a lot.
Certainly an afternoon kickoff as well. Then Nathan, finish us off here on the URC. I would imagine not a game you've paid too much attention to, but are you going to agree with Chris and I on the points here?
I'm going to channel my inner oracle, and I'm going to say Scarlets win this game.
Oh, the wrong favorite. Okay. Yeah.
Scarlets win this game. I actually did take Scarlets plus 8.5, and I actually do make this like kind of close to a coin flip, and I think Scarlets bring it, and I think they're a really good chance to win.
That's sharp. That is sharp.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that logic. I didn't see it up front when I looked at this game, but the more I look at it, I put this in a similar to what I was saying about Edinburgh against Connacht as well. To me, there is a lot. I mean, it's not that either team won't be trying or whatever, but I think the Lions are going to throw things around, and I think the Scarlets potentially might be able to sneak the win. They certainly have impressed me this season. Any final thoughts, Chris, before we move on to the best bets?
No, that's I think I totally agree. I think Scarlets are in this game, and that's probably out of all the games on the plus handicaps, that's one of my favorites of the slate.
Well, for Reed and 2M Systems both agreeing with Nathan there as well, that Scarlets look to be the business. That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks, first of all. We won't end the show yet, but thanks to the guys in the live chat. It was good having you back on after that week off, and that's with a bit of luck the show will make it through, and we'll be back next week. Nathan, what are your best plays of the week?
This is a tricky one, especially in Super Rugby. So I'm gonna go with the Crusaders. As I said, I think there's some fragility to the Chiefs, and they haven't beaten anybody good for quite a long time. They've had a bit of a cupcake schedule to finish the season, and obviously put a nail in last week. So not like super confident, because the Chiefs are kind of capable of anything. But I'll take the Crusaders there, and and then the Scarlets. So I'm not going to say on the board, but take them on the cap.
All right, and Chris, yourself, what's your biggest plays of the weekend, or your best plays?
Shorts is again very, very tough. I think maybe even the try bet on the Crusaders Chiefs game looks very good. I really think it's a 1 score game there. So either way, I also like also the Crusaders. I think they've not right. The Chiefs hammered them in the other game. I think they went was the other way around, the reverse fixture. And I think and what I also like in these situations with quality sides, there's pride and bounce back there on the Crusaders there as well. So I agree that I think it looks good here in Crusaders spot, but I still think it's going to be. I think the teams are so evenly matched, so I think it's going to be a super close game. Again, because we don't have the team news, but if there are decentish Leinster and Stormer sides, go for the minuses. I think don't be afraid. It's a big mismatch, golf and quality and class. I think you don't be afraid to go for it. And I agree with that Scarlet plus. That looks the best plus on the board. And maybe medium, I like the Brumbies to do a job on the force.
Right. So let's quickly roll through some of the comments from the guys. Johan's weekly treble Ospreys is at over 26.5, I would imagine you're saying there. Was it plus 26.5?
Would be the over, the points.
It would be the overs. Tars Reds, Tars Reds under 54.5. Chiefs win. That works out at 60-1 for Reed. Likes the Brumbies and Chiefs in Super Rugby, and Leinster and Stormers in the URC. Of course, there's Premiership as well, Bath and Northampton. Yeah, he was confirming Ospreys plus 16.5 there. For 2M Systems, it's Leinster and Stormers, he reckons about 50 plus, and Glasgow about 15 plus. So my best bet, I've been sending them out generally on a Saturday, but I've got a feeling that my newsletter might come out a little bit early tomorrow, because if I see a points line, if the bookies are sleeping on the points line in Joburg or Pretoria,
Go for it.
so I'll have to wait for after the team news. And I've noticed the South African bookies are a bit slow with the points lines on URC. Like, we might only get Saturday's points lines like Friday evening or something, but I will. I don't normally watch that closely, but I'll certainly be waiting, because I think if we do get a little bit of a slip from the bookies, it's not going to last for long. We'll give Blake the final word. Ospreys, Tars, Ospreys plus, Tars plus, Chief State is over 54.5, and Gloucester plus. That is, of course, in the Premiership. Gents, thanks very much, Chris. Great to have you on. As I say, I had a look at your video on Facebook on the Isle of Man. Looks like a hell of a place to stay there. You're looking good, and have a cracking weekend, mate.
Yeah, thanks. You too, Benty. Thanks a lot. Nice to see you, Nathan.
Excellent.
Too.
And Nathan, great to have you on again next week. What have we got now? About 3 more? How many more rounds of Super Rugby? We've got 2 or 3 weeks after this, probably. Yeah.
Two regular season weeks after this one. Yeah.
Excellent.
I love Super Rugby. I'm gonna miss it.
Well, you've got a few weeks yet, but looking forward to. We'll hook up with Nathan again definitely next week. Thanks very much, everyone. And keep an eye on, as I say, social media, Matt. We'll see. Bit of luck, we didn't offend anyone on this show, and we'll be back next week. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next week for the handicap.